Let me guess, you need a lot of ice, but you keep running into dumb farms where you either have to harvest everything manually or build a crazy complicated flying machine array. Oh, and by the way, does every ice farm have to be bigger than the fields your dreams go to die in? Well, let me introduce you to the alternative. An ice farm that doesn't break the bank and can be expanded to suit individual player needs and survival, ranging from 7,500 ice per hour for the small variant, which can be expanded as is to the medium variant at 24,500 ice per hour, which can also be expanded into the largest variant that gives 33,500 ice per hour. This is the scripted, programmable, unquestionably dope ice collection expandability farm, or SPUD ice for short. So how does all this work exactly? While traditional ice harvesting methods rely on slow water streams pushing a player around a large ice field that has a slow ice regeneration rate, we're more than doubling simple player-moved ice collection rates from Gnimon's classic ice farm video by changing 3 very specific factors: the rate of ice generation in the tray, the ice collection system, and how fast the player moves. We're doubling the rate of ice generation in the tray with this unique shape that allows for more ice to be exposed to freezing surfaces, allowing the ice to freeze faster pretty much everywhere in the tray. So we have these crisscrossing rails which are waterlogged, which are going to refill all the water in the tray, and we also have more anchor points for the ice to be frozen because ice needs a non-waterlogged block to freeze. So because of the unique shape of the ice in these trays, we're allowing it to freeze on both sides while also be refilling every time without issue. And additionally, in the middle here, we have this wacky system where doors allow ice to be frozen because they can't be waterlogged. So it acts as an ice freezing point anchor in the middle here, right where it needs it the most. Because the door doesn't take up the whole block, the player can mine the blocks through the door behind it with the pickaxe. We're also changing the collection system by utilizing some of the most underused mobs to hit the game, which are allays. These little guys have their own storage center over here that I've made using scaffolding, which allows you to easily put them back and take them out from their little cage right here so that they won't be a hassle to get in and out. And these guys do a great job of collecting all the ice, and you only need about 15 for the largest version of this farm, which is crazy. And lastly, the player movement speed is being tripled by a really interesting trick: walking. But not just any walking, we're using the free Windows program called Autohotkey to script the entirety of player movements throughout the farm, with all the scripts you need for each variant available for free in the description as a text file. Autohotkey is an incredibly simple and lightweight piece of software that has been around a while and can be used to automate many actions on your computer, such as auto-clicking or pressing very specific buttons in a loop to conveniently walk all the way around the ice farm in one loop. And this scripted loop of walking is more than 3 times faster than if water was just going to push us around. This means that the player will get through the loop sooner, which means that combined with our increased ice generation rate, we're going to have some massive rates for this farm. So I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the finer points of how this farm works because 1, understanding redstone is cool and you should totally do that, but 2, it also helps to know and troubleshoot your farm if anything is to happen in the future. And to begin, I'd like to go ahead and thank Puns and Ships and my Discord community for helping me design this farm and for helping with some of the design considerations over several weeks, so big shout out to you guys. If you want to be a part of my Discord community, SPUD Central, there's a link in the description and on my channel page. So hop in there and talk to us about redstone, your questions, or what you're working on, and just if you want to chat. There are major things in the works, which is a SPUD Central SMP coming to my Discord soon. So go ahead and stay tuned in there for more details on that if you're interested in playing survival Minecraft with me and other members of the community. So let's talk a little bit more about the ice generation specifically and these rails here. I chose rails because they're one of the cheapest blocks to get if you have access to any kind of iron farm. Then you can basically get as many rails as you want for free. And as I said, they also are waterloggable so that they will refill all this farm entirely. So on the top of the farm here, you'll see this weird little bar, and this is just phantom protection as you're AFKing. Oh, and one more note about the lighting. On the tops here, where we have the phantom spawning platform, we have all the torches for the farm, and this is making them high up enough to where that the lighting levels won't ever actually get below 10 where each of the ice is. So if I were to go ahead and break some of this, and you'd see that lighting level is 7. Additionally, there's a very small chance for a particular section to not fill back up with ice, so we have to make sure that all of these blocks in the center are also lit up directly. As you can see, these torches actually do spawn proof the center of the farm if all of these blocks are gone. So that is something to keep in mind, which will be peace of mind whenever you're going. You should not be getting any mob spawns here if you build this farm exactly like I have it. Additionally, you may have noticed these weird little blocks right here. This is because if you have, all right, let me get some depth strider boots real quick. There we go. So if you have depth strider boots on, the player will actually try to jump up whenever they hit these ice patches right here. And so we still have the water stream down below for the item collection, so that whenever the allays toss the ice to the player, it'll actually be sent into the stream. So we need these ice blocks in the middle here for the items to slide over. But the problem is, if the player is being squished up against the front of the farm when they move this way, they're going to hop a little bit like that if there's not a block above this space. So that's why we have all of these right here, is to stop the player from hopping. So as you can see, if I do it right here, I don't actually jump up if I'm doing this like this, because these blocks are here. And so this is letting us just speed our way through the farm while still staying at the front, because these allays are dumb and kind of knock us around a little bit. And speaking of blocks, you may have noticed that there's a lot of building blocks in this build, and they're all made out of snow. And that's because I made an awesome snow block farm for 1.21. So whenever that comes out, you'll be able to use that farm to get thousands of snow blocks per hour. More specifically, around 121 stacks of snow blocks per hour, which is really awesome. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check out that farm. It's really small, and you can see it in the link in the description. Once the Autocrafter comes out, you'll be able to use that to its fullest potential. And since we're farming XP right here for all of the large and medium variants of the farm, you might as well go ahead and put that snow block farm right next to where you're going to build this. And the reason for that being is that you can just stand there and have this XP refilling your shovel as you're making all those snow blocks, which will extend the life that you can sit at that farm without having to go somewhere else to mend it. So that's where I'd recommend building that, and building that in the XP module first. So for the differences between the small, medium, and large versions, we have a few things that are going to come into play here. So for the small variant, the XP system, as you can see here, is just a little system that is activated by a pressure plate at the very last bit of the farm, where when the player steps on it, we'll actually get some bottles of enchanting being shot out of this dispenser right here. And those are sold by master level clerics. So if you have any kind of villager trading hall, like maybe an iron farm villager breeding trading hall, I wonder who made one of those. You can go ahead and trade for all those bottles of enchanting and use them in the farm to extend the life. Just keep in mind that you'll need quite a few of them to extend the life of the farm, because you'll need about around 4 stacks or so per hour, give or take. The other thing that you can do for this variant of the farm that may or may not be easier for you is that you could program the script yourself to swap out your pick every, hour or so. So in my testing, it was about 50 laps, or about 54 minutes of the small farm, until another pick is as close to unusable as I'd like, which is a little bit of a buffer on there. So if you wanted to, you could write the script to swap out your pick every 50 laps, or you could use this XP system, or you could just program the script to do 50 laps and then stop. So it's really up to you. Autohotkey is super simple, and all of the parts of the script come with annotations that I've made so you can understand how it works. And additionally, Autohotkey also has resources on their website about how to write programs and such. So feel free to look into those if you like. So the XP systems for the medium and large variant have to be a little bit beefier than this, because we're going to need a lot of durability for our pickaxe, because we're going to be shredding through these ice blocks. So right here we have a portal-based piglin farm. And this is very similar to a design Strom is using. In fact, this bottom portion is exactly the system that Strom is using. So I will go ahead and link his video in the description, where he has a spin on Gnimban's farm, who is kind of the original large-scale ice innovator. So kudos to Gnimban and Strom for both preceding me in that aspect. So this XP module is more than enough for the 8 rows of the farm that you'll see here. But I will mention that you don't have to build 8 rows specifically. You can actually build as many down back rows as you need. However, these 3 versions are the only 3 presets that I'm writing programs for, and including the Autohotkey scripts for in the description. So keep in mind that you may have to adjust the timings to run back to the center on each of those scripts a little bit, if you so choose to have different rows. But the beauty of it is, once you're comfortable with that, you can make literally any amount of rows that you'd like, and whatever type of farm that you need. So this medium version only has 1/2 of the XP portal system, and you will be needing an obsidian farm for this most likely. And I will drop a link in the description to some of the ones that I've found interesting, and I'll throw that on the screen here. And especially on the large version, that will be very helpful, especially if you don't have access to a lot of obsidian already. You can go and mine obsidian in the end on the pillars if you want a lot of it. However, it is much easier to get a farm for this. And right here, we have a kind of custom little collection system that I've designed, which is also very similar to the version that Strom had. However, I had to redo this just a little bit for the two sides of portals on each side for it to improve the piglin flow here. As you can see, every now and then, the last piglin will stand on the edge, but he'll always be pushed forward by the next one, and they don't stand there long enough to despawn, so it's okay, and the rates are lossless. And how this is working down here is that those piglins are dropping. Also, that lava is for chicken jockeys, by the way, so don't be confused by that. That's just to burn the chickens that the babies ride every now and then. And down here, we have all their drops and XP being pushed into this item stream. All the drops are getting burned right now, and this is just to kind of take out all these crazy items from the gold farm. However, this is a fully functional gold farm. So you could put some item filters right here to filter out the nuggets, and when 1.21, you could craft those nuggets into blocks and ingots. So that's an excellent way to have a passive gold income here just for free while you're using the ice farm. And I will also mention that you'll need to be using a fully enchanted netherite pickaxe for this, or diamond pickaxe, it does not matter which. But the pickaxe will have to have silk touch and unbreaking 3 on it and mending in order to get all the rates and to not break in time. So for the item collection, for the 2-row variant down here, the small version, we have just one hopper stream, and this is a-okay because we have less than 9,000 items coming through the farm per hour. We have 7,500, so this can just go into a simple chest loader like this. If you'd like, you could expand this into one of the systems I'll show here, but for most players, this will be more than enough for the small version of the farm. However, whenever we are upgrading on the medium and the large, I have a very nice shulker box loader. And this thing can handle 36,000 items input per hour, and we'll load them all into shulker boxes here. And you'll have the shulker box input into here, and this whole stack right here, which is being fed, and they'll be dispensed, where all the ice will go into that and eventually be broken and put down into this larger storage full of full shulker boxes. And this design is from the Chronos Public Archive, so I'll provide a link for their server in the description where this is from, so thank you to you guys and to Puns and Ships for showing me this. And Puns and Ships has modified this design just slightly to provide a few little extra toggles and interface, so thanks for that. So when 1.21 comes out, you'll be able to automatically craft all this ice into blue ice and packed ice, which I have a system for here using the brand new crafter. And what this is doing is just sending items into 2 crafters at double hopper speed, and that is then crafting them into packed ice via this observer clock right here. And so they're being crafted into packed ice, which will go into storage on this right side right here. Or if you want blue ice, you can flick this lever and they'll all be going into this storage on the left side for blue ice. Also, since a lot of the time people like using normal ice for water sources, I have just a little collection system for this here that'll kind of pull from the extra from the farm and fill up first, so you can go ahead and access that if you need some mobile water buckets. Also, I'd like to showcase how the XP is traveling throughout the farm. So we have the XP being filtered in here from the item storage, and it's kind of jumping to me real quick, so I'll stand back. So pressing F3B will let us see the hitboxes of these XP particles a little, so we can see them a little bit better. So they're actually being tossed right through here and into the water stream where they're slowly making their way around the farm. However, we want to make sure that none of these are despawning on the far edge of the farm so that the player won't be able to get them. And so in order to prevent that, I have this little system here, which is part of the item collection system. So right here at the end of the 4th lap that they make, they're actually being sent right back in here and into this little water stream. And what this is doing is collecting all of those right here in one spot and kind of in the middle of the farm. And essentially what this lets us do is hit this one spot at least 2 times for every lap the player goes through the farm. And this is a little ways before these items would actually despawn in the actual farm itself. So that way we're preventing any of these from despawning while the player is moving around until the player can actually move back and get all of these. And while we're on the topic of item collection, as I said earlier, all of the ice will be also traveling through this water collection system, preventing us from needing rails or other complicated means of item transportation. And so we don't want every single ice block to travel the whole circuit. So what we've done is at the down and back portion of each lap, I've added this little undershoot here, which will actually send all the ice blocks through this little hole, that will send all of the ice blocks underneath these slabs into this main collection stream so that they won't be traveling the whole length and having a ton of entities everywhere and also confusing the allays. As it is right now, the ice blocks that are shooting through the water stream don't confuse the allays at all because they're being sent well ahead of where they're collecting, and the system works great. And all those will come through into here and be sent this way into the storage collection. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about the most important part and the most interesting aspect about this farm, which is scripting. So as I said, the program we're using is Autohotkey, and this is free to download and use for all Windows users. There are a lot of tutorials on YouTube about how to run Autohotkey scripts, how to play Autohotkey scripts. Yeah, you don't need any of those. That's because the 3 scripts that you need for each of these farms are included in the description. So let's go ahead and hop into those and how they work. And if programming and scripts scare you, then believe me, you don't have to know a single thing about how this works. Just treat it like an auto clicker, which I don't consider cheating to be in the game. You don't need any mods to operate these. It is an external program that just pushes keys on your computer. So as long as you operate it correctly, there's absolutely nothing to worry about. So let's go ahead and talk just very briefly about the actual script itself and what each of the 3 of them look like. If you're not interested, you can feel free to skip this part, but I think it's really cool to know exactly what's happening so that you can tweak the farm to do other different things if you like. So let's go ahead and hop right into that. So let's Alt Tab and go back to our Autohotkey scripts here. And let's go ahead and right click that and hit Edit Script. And as you can see, this big scary looking thing pops up. I promise it is not too bad. All these semicolons are just comments right here, so you don't have to pay attention to those if you don't want to. Everything that's actually happening in the program is over here on this side of the column. So basically what we're doing is we have one giant loop for the farm, and I'm showing this on Notepad just because this is what it will show for everyone who doesn't have programming experience. You can use whatever text editor you'd like for this if it makes you feel more sane. What we're doing is we're looping the whole farm. So this bracket right here is containing everything that the player is going to be doing in one full lap. And within that lap, we have a section that we're going to be looping for just the down back portions. So this is sending A down. This is moving left and walking left for a little bit. And that's going to be for around 29 seconds or so. And so then we're going to press S down and walk backwards. Then we're going to press D down to walk right. Basically, we're holding all these little individual keys down for specific amounts of time. One thing to note is that all the time is in milliseconds. So that's what this sleep is doing here, which is holding that for 29,000 milliseconds, or 29 seconds if you prefer. And so this loop 7, this number 7 is because there are 14 rows in the large version. So as you can see behind me, there are 14 rows here if you were to count them, which is 7 down back. So that's why there's loop 7. Say you had just 10 rows, that would be a loop 5 number is what you'd want to change that to, and so on and so forth. So then once that has been looped 7 times, we'll be right back here in this position. And then once the player is at this corner, we want them to eat a little bit of food so that they don't die, which is always good. So that is what this little section right here is. And so you can have the food on slot 2 of your hotbar, which is how this is by default. So as the configuration, you'll want the food to be in whenever you start the farm. If you wanted to switch to different pickaxes at different times, this is also how you could use that as well. And then we're switching back to the pick after we have eaten the food. We are unclicking the mouse right here. We are sprinting back to the starting position for around 20 seconds for the large variant. And there's this little warning here, which is just basically saying that if you have different amounts of rows, this time to sprint will be different for each of those. So you're going to want to test that and see what that sprinting time will be. Then add maybe a second or so of buffer time just to make sure that your player makes it all the way through to the start. And then once that has completed, this bracket corresponds with the overall loop. So what that is doing is once a player gets here, then that is the entire loop of the farm that is done. And the full lap has now been completed, and we keep looping this cycle. As I see here, there's really nifty guides for all this stuff in here. If you just read it, it'll tell you exactly what's happening. And so down here we have what is setting the actual hotkeys to start and stop the script. You'll press Ctrl-J to start, Ctrl-K to stop. And because Ctrl-K doesn't actually stop the middle of a loop, you're gonna have to Alt-Tab in order to make that exit app take effect for some strange reason. All right, so now that we've talked about pretty much every aspect of the farm, we're going to go ahead and get into the tutorial. As you guys know, I am a big fan of Litematica, so if you do use that mod, and I highly recommend that you do, it'll show you a whole schematic of how to build each of these and will save you hours and hours of your time. And all of the Litematica schematics for this are also linked in the description as well. So I would advise using those for the tutorials because they are so much easier. However, if you like to keep it vanilla, then stay tuned and we will jump into that tutorial. Alright, so how you actually start the script and start farming is you're going to go ahead and go into the folder where you have your Autohotkey scripts. And so I have the 3 of them right here that you can see. And so I'm going to go ahead and double click the medium. Oh, that's weird that my OBS just showed up. That's kind of strange. I'm going to go ahead and double click the medium one. And so you should see that little loading icon. And if you go down here, you can actually see the little icon here in your system tray, and you'll be able to see it right here. That means that the script is here and ready and is waiting to be started. So we're going to go ahead and go back into Minecraft. And so I do recommend that you do this in windowed mode, or if you're just comfortable with alt tabbing, that's fine as well. So the way you're going to actually go ahead and get started is you're going to go ahead and free all your allays, and you're going to go ahead and pick up those scaffoldings. So you're going to need them later to put them back. So we'll just go ahead and get all of those. And so the trick to kind of getting the allays to follow you is you want to go ahead and just kind of walk around a little bit. And so if they have an item, they'll actually be running towards you and they'll be trying to just run wherever you're at. So kind of get them all on your tail and then head back. It helps to kind of have them all in a big group. So you try to get as few of them on the underside of the farm as possible. If there are some, they'll go ahead and come back to you later, so it's not a big deal. So you're going to go ahead and jump in the water, and as you can see, I have my depth strider boots so I can move around in here. You're going to want to make sure you have your depth strider boots and your pickaxe with mending, unbreaking, efficiency 5, and silk touch. And so those are going to be really good for you and going to help you to mine all the blocks in the farm. So let's go ahead and get all our allays again, because these guys love to fly everywhere and nowhere at all. We're going to go ahead and go back to the start, and that's kind of what this little wall here is doing. So we have our script already open and running, so we're going to go ahead and press Ctrl-J, and as you can see, we start running through the farm. If you press F3, it helps to align yourself to where that little tiny red dot in the center, or blue dot, is exactly where you can't see it. So that's going to mean we're in the very center of the farm. And so we're going to go ahead and test out a down and back to just make sure that we're aligned properly, because if you're aligned a little bit bad, the timing will be a little bit different and you might not make it through the first few laps. So that's why we just watched the first 2 to make sure that we have a little bit of extra, which is good. And so now we're starting on the second time, and as you can see, the allays there are picking up all the ice for us, and they'll be tossing that to us. So we're going to go ahead and wait and see if we get through this next junction okay, and then we'll know that we're good to go through the rest of the farm. You just want there to be kind of like an extra second of buffer time on each of those, just in case the allays bump you back or something. Never happened in my testing, but I like to have a little bit of buffer time just to be sure. So we're getting pretty close to that edge, so you see we'll stop, and then we'll head back, and then we'll go through the farm. See, there we go, and everything's perfect. So now, if you're, say you just came back and you have all the ice you want, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and press Ctrl-K, and that won't actually stop us until we get to the edge here. But if you want to actually get out of Minecraft first, you're going to go ahead and Alt-Tab and Alt-Tab back. And what that'll do is that'll just break that loop and make it to where Autohotkey is no longer running. So let's go ahead and get all these allays back up in here. Actually, let's get a little bit of ice first in order to have something to bait them in with, which helps a little bit. And I just messed up all those rails there, which is fantastic. There we go. So then we're going to go ahead and get all of our allays. We're going to put all our scaffolding back. So we pillar up 1, 2, 3, then jump up here, 1, 2, 3. The string will stop the scaffolding from extending too far. So that is really helpful. And that's also why it is there. And so then we're going to go ahead and just fill in all this platform. You might get 1 or 2 allays in here first, but then we're going to drop some ice in here, and they're all going to try and fly up in here as soon as they can. So there might be a few on the sides or maybe under the platform. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down one more time and just kind of bait them with a little bit of ice right here so that they fly onto this platform, and then bait them with a little bit more up here and they'll fly right up. So you really only have to do this probably 1 time, maybe 2. So believe it or not, this method is actually a lot easier than using leads and stuff like that. So it's actually really convenient to put them in here and have them ready to go instantly like this. So that is really all it takes to operate each of these scripts. You just want to make sure that you have the right one selected for the farm that you're at. Once again, I was using the medium, so that is why I selected the medium script. It's pretty self-explanatory which ones you need for each farm. Alright, well I think that about covers everything for the farm, so thank you so much for watching. So I don't like asking for subscribers, but this farm has taken weeks and weeks to build. It's gone through multiple iterations, many different designs, has taken a lot of trials and errors for the script. Each of the different variants for the farm, trial and erroring those, testing them out for rates over time, making different box loaders and item collection systems and XP systems. It's taken me weeks. So if you like this video, consider subscribing if you want to see more awesome content like this and more super geeky redstone. This is my series Minecraft for the People, where I try to empower you to build more things using better farms, so stay tuned if you want to see more content like that. I think this farm is pretty cool for challenging the theoretical 72,000 items per hour maximum for single player, and getting really close into striking distance for that for such a simplistic setup instead of using any flying machines or anything like that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and stay tuned, and I'll catch you in the next video.